Hey, how's it going? Looking to wait to see if we get some people in here. We're going to start out today. Just kind of wanted to go through until we get some people in here interacting. We're going to go through some of the depth charts, some of the position battles, some of the people that could be out of a spot this year until we kind of get some questions coming in. Um, First one, a position of that we can still look to even improve on, wide receiver. I think our top three are pretty solidified right now. After that, it is really a crapshoot. You got Mims, Perryman, Crowder, obviously going to be the top three guys. But it's really going to be a battle after that. I think Quincy Anua's completely done. I won't expect him to do anything. I think that the idea with him is they want the medical all clear, and then they'll probably release him because I think if they cut him before getting the medical all clear, I think it costs us more money, if I'm not mistaken, because Maccagnan put a great injury protection in there for Quincy. Nice little parting gift from Mike Maccagnan. Hey, Todd. Hey, Steven. How's it going, guys? So I would say Anua's gone. I think Vincent Smith's got a nice spot to be one of those backup outside wide receivers. You saw last year, we were devastated, but you saw that Gase did start drawing up some plays for him in the latter half of the year. I think there's potential there. I think Gacy's a little Robbie Anderson in him, speed guy who can definitely, go chase it down, and he's pretty good at tracking the ball down the field as well. So I think Vincent Smith has a good job of maybe solidifying that number 4 wide receiver spot. After that, it gets very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what Doxson brings to the table in training camp. I think he has a chance. I think Berrios and Bellamy are gone. I think both of them are gone. Bellamy, I could see potentially making the team as a very, very last player just because of his work as a gunner. But I think Ashton Davis pick makes both of these guys very expendable. So Ashton Davis, if you guys have not looked into much or done much research, he walked on to Cal, and he played everywhere. So he was just one of those hard workers, special teams all the way. I can see him taking a lot of the return jobs. I could also – and LaMichael P. Ryan, he also did some kick returns as well. So I think between those two, you could see Berrios and Bellamy expendable. Bellamy, I can see Davis kind of being that gunner, taking Bellamy's spot on that. But maybe Bellamy still makes it. Also, with that being said, too, I think Cannon is gone. I was kind of expecting a little more from Cannon last year. I know he kind of ended up getting hurt. But if you guys remember Gase's last year with the Dolphins, he absolutely killed us in at least one of the 2 games with, what are those names? Grant and I can't remember the other guy's name. But they were 2 small, speedy wide receivers / running back. I think one of them was wide receiver running back. And I just thought, I was like, Cannon. It just seemed like Cannon could kind of fit that role. Never really panned out. I don't think he's going to make the team. But my sleeper to make the wide receiver spot is Cager. I really like Cager. I think he brings something unique to the table. I know we have a lot of taller wide receivers already, but he's taller than them all by 2 inches. And he can really go up and get it in the red zone. So I can see him making it as like that 5th receiver because he does bring that unique factor into it. But that's how I would have it at wide receiver. It's going to be interesting to see with Doxson. And Doxson's going to be fighting for a spot on this team. Obviously, first-round talent has not really shown much at all. But it'll be interesting to see what he had. He hasn't had the best luck either. He went to Minnesota last year, was obviously behind Diggs and Thielen, and then he ended up getting hurt very early in the season and missed the rest of the season. So injury-prone most of his career too. So you got to see what can happen with him. The other position battle is flipped to the opposite side in corner. We have 10 corners on the roster right now. So there's going to be a lot of competition. I think some of the people brought back could very well not make this team. I think some of the people from last year that might be on the chopping block, Harrison, I think Moet will make the team. So going into last year, I was kind of higher on Harrison. Didn't really know Moet at all. But the further we got into that year, Harrison really just didn't show what he was showing the year before. So I think he has a real uphill battle to make the team this year. And they could both be gone potentially. It's going to be interesting. So your top two is probably going to be Pierre Desir and probably Bus Austin. I honestly think that Hall can compete for a starting spot as soon as – if he's fully healthy, I think he can compete right out of the gate. I was watching highlights, and this guy was mirroring people. I'm very, very impressed with Hall's ability. It's just he had a bad injury, and that's what happened with this. This coronavirus could have been a blessing in disguise to us, because maybe if they had pro days, they had the ability to bring people in, maybe Hall gets checked out by a few of these other doctors and gets picked before we ever had the chance to take him. So, who knows? But I'm very high on him. I think at some point this year, kind of like what Wes Austin did, maybe ease him in, but at some point this year, I can see him taking over one of those starting spots, or at least playing a significant amount. Obviously, we know we're locked in the slot with Poole, so we don't have to worry there. One of the best slot corners in the league. And the new CBA, aren't teams allowed to dress 47 or 48 now instead of 45? 2 more players, I think, than previous. I think so, and I think the rosters also expand from 53 to 55. So they're going to have 2 more roster spots in general as well. And I think, yes, they're going to dress 2 more people. So that's going to be interesting, because now you're going to be able to see them obviously keep an extra 2 players. But there's going to be some guys in here that were playing significant minutes last year, or thought they may have been coming into this year, that are not going to. Inside linebacker is going to be a very interesting spot. At this point, unless they look to bring in a Logan Ryan or an edge type guy like Everson Griffin, we may not need any more cap space. So some of the guys we thought might have been getting cut, maybe they don't get cut. It's interesting to see that Avery Williamson and Winters are still on this team. Are they going to bring them into training camp? I'm not sure. They may be trying to hold out. I can see Joe Douglas saying, I don't need the cap space right now. As long as I cut them before the season starts, they're not guaranteed their salary. Why not bring them into camp? We have so many people, whether it be our own people from last year, whether it be some of the people we drafted this year, some of these undrafted guys we brought in. There's a lot of banged up people on this team, or people that are coming back from injury. So I can see them potentially keeping Winters, keeping Williamson into training camp, and just letting everybody compete. But, I tell you what, guard and inside linebacker is a spot where there's just a lot of bodies that are going to be competing. I think between guard and inside linebacker, the only spot that is solidified is C.J. Mosley. I don't think either one of the guard spots is solidified. I don't think the other inside linebacker is either. Now, if Williamson comes back, it's his. But if Williamson does not, it's wide open. You have Peanut that we just got from the Ravens. You got Blake Cashman, who we drafted last year, who played well. He's got elite speed for an inside linebacker. And Hewitt and Burgess. Burgess played very well last year. I was surprised, because I was a big fan of Hewitt, and Burgess outplayed him towards the end of the year. Burgess was an animal. So there's a lot of bodies. One or 2 of those guys are not making the team. That is going to be interesting. It's just crazy the GMs we've had in the past, it's like you knew who was making the team, and then it was like a few guys you'd be like, we don't know who's going to fill the last 5-10 spots of our roster, not because there's so many good guys, because they all sucked. Now it's like we got some good guys. We got some depth now, and it's going to be interesting to see these last few roster spots. I want to see Williamson and Mosley in the middle together. This should be a top 5 D. Yeah, Steven, I agree. I was looking forward to that last year. Williamson is underrated. He is a very, very high-end inside linebacker. And C.J. Mosley was an all-pro. So if you put – that's what I was telling people. We had a top 10 defense last year. If you keep Williamson and Mosley's back healthy, you just added an all-pro caliber inside linebacker and a Pro Bowl caliber inside linebacker to the middle of your solid defense. You also got rid of the dead weight on the corners and got well, we don't have an elite, we don't have a Revis, we don't even have a Cromartie, right? But these guys they're all number 2 type corners. So we got a bunch of people that we can kind of rotate in. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. Is Peanut playing inside or outside? So Peanut played inside with Baltimore. I did hear, who was it? Somebody told me that they thought Peanut may play outside. I don't know. I don't know much about Peanut. I read a little bit. I didn't really watch any of his highlight. I don't know how he can transition to the outside linebacker spot. It'll be interesting, though. I think going into camp, though, you're going to have Jenkins and Basham as your starting outside linebackers. And whether Peanut slides out there and competes with Basham will be something to see. And then obviously we'll have Zuniga out on the edge competing as well. What's going on, Lights? How's it going? By the way, everybody says the 49ers and Seahawks are automatic losses. Jimmy G blows. We can beat them. I think we can beat anybody. So, Steven, if you saw my rant video, you know how I feel. So the thing is, we were devastated last year, and our schedule was weak at the end of the year. We were the worst team in the league. If you look at the talent we had, it was horrendous. We had the worst offensive line in league history. I think it was like the only offensive line to give up 50-plus sacks and have the average yards per rush be under 3. That's horrendous. Horrendous. So this defense is going to be elite. So why I look at it is if our defense is – I think it's going to be easily top 10 again because we added so much talent back to it. If you got a top 10 defense, and I think at the worst we'll have like a middle of the pack offense, right? That's got to be playoffs, or at least in the thick of it till week 17. That's all I want, in the thick of it till week 17. Would you sign Clowney 1 year, $10 million? See, 1 year, I don't like Clowney. I really don't. And I know there's been rumors that we're kind of – I was just about to say that, Steven. There's been rumors that we've kind of been linked to him a little bit. I just don't think he's a Joe Douglas type of guy, as Steven just said. From all reports, he does not work hard. He's injury prone, and well, that's not really a Joe Douglas thing, and he's penalized big. So look at what happened last year, right? People will say, "Oh, we got killed by the winless Bengals." Now I don't know if you guys were watching the same game I was watching when we played the Bengals, but anytime we started to build momentum, what happened? Penalty, pull it back. Big pass play, holding penalty on Lewis. Big run play, holding penalty on Beachum on the outside. It's like every 5 or third and long, we're about to stop them, a defensive holding or pass interference. We got destroyed by penalties last year. So look at some of the offensive linemen he brought in. McGovern. I think it was like McGovern, Van Roten, Fant. I think like all the guys he brought in, they combined for like 2 penalties last year, something ridiculously low. So I just don't see that as being a fit. Clowney is like an elite rush defender and not a very good passer. He'll get pressure, but it's not going to translate to sacks. So I don't think Clowney's a good fit. I mean, 1 year, $10 million, I wouldn't be like pissed off if we did that. It's just we had the number 2 rush defense in the league last year. Do we really need help stopping the run? I don't think so. I'd rather spend that money on Vinny Curry or Everson Griffin, who have shown to be better pass rushers. Sometimes I think it's fixed. They want the Bengals to win because they didn't want to have them 0-16. Yeah, I mean, Steven, that's what it seemed like. I said, with all those penalties, it was absurd. I mean, I know our team's not good, or they were not good then, and the offensive line, and that's just to show you how bad they were too. I mean, not only did they give up the most sacks, they gave up the least amount of yards. They were one of the most penalized units as well because they had to hold. It was the only way they can keep Donald from getting hit as soon as the ball touches his fingers. I mean, it was terrible. Who would you want to see a lot more production from next season? Offensive side, defensive side, or both, Lights? I'll go with both. So on the defensive side, I want to see more production from Marcus May. He does very, very well. I want to see more interceptions. He plays that deep safety role. I want to see him come up with more balls. Fight to stay on this team. I would be all for keeping Adams and May. I don't think May's going to command a lot of money. I think you can get him on a relatively good deal. On the offensive side of the ball, who would I want to see a lot more production from? I mean, there's so many new faces on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, obviously, but that wasn't even on him. I always say this. I say whatever he averaged, and I know it was very, very little, like lowest of his career, it was a miracle that he averaged anything positive. And that's just a testament to how good he still is. Goose, what's going on, buddy? So it's just, like I said, that's what I think, like I said, Bell gaining any positive yards was just a testament to how good he is. But I would say I want to see Herndon. I was a big fan of Herndon his rookie year. I think he built a very good rapport with Darnold. It was a shame what happened last year. So the people that say, hey, he's always in trouble, he's really not. That suspension actually came from like the weekend after the draft or the week after the draft when he got drafted. He got in trouble for something. I can't even remember what it was. They just didn't penalize him, or they didn't figure out what they wanted to do to him until after his rookie season. So that's why he's been out of trouble for 2 years now, pretty much. So I'm not worried about the trouble thing. I think that was kind of a one-off. But I want to see if he can kind of get back after the broken ribs and see if he can kind of get back to that level and that chemistry with Darnold. They should be in every game. If not, then there are injuries to a handful of stars. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that you can't tell what's going to happen, Steven. Last year, and this was part of my little rant too, last year we were like the most penalized team. And the Bills were the least, not penalized, injury team, and the Bills were the least. So it's like when you want to say how far apart we are, you got to factor these things in. We were playing with practice squad guys. And like I said in that video too, the first 3 quarters, we were shutting them out. Mosley goes down. Darnold is sick as a dog. I didn't know he had mono yet. If anybody had mono, you know. I mean, I remember I was working at BJ's in high school when I got mono, and I was slumped over halfway through my shift in the food court. I didn't even know what was wrong with me. I went to the doctor after that. I could barely even stand. I can only imagine this guy playing a full football game. No way. He was definitely feeling the effects in the second half of that Bills game. That's probably what led to him getting tested. He's probably like, look, I don't know what's going on with me right now, and then found out. So, like I said, that gap between us and the Bills is a lot closer than people are giving us credit for. Mark Andrews and Chris Herndon had very similar rookie seasons. Yeah, he could be. It's going to be interesting, though, to see if he makes that big leap stat-wise, though, just because Griffin's going to be there, too. And you look at it, I mean, we're shallow when it comes to the wide receivers. That's the one thing that scares me, is that we have Perryman, Mims, Crowder, and then a bunch of big question marks. If we could bring in, like, a veteran guy, I wouldn't mind it. But if we take an injury to the wide receiver spot, we could be in trouble. But the tight ends, and you also have, like I said, we have 4 deep at tight end that I feel very confident in. So Herndon could be very successful this year. It may not show up in the stats, though, because there's going to be, like I said, quite a few other mouths to feed. I see Dark Demonic's in there. What's going on, man? I was laid out. Yeah, Braden, it knocks you out there, Mono. So hopefully Darnold is staying away from chicks he doesn't know. He's not sharing drinks with anybody. Hopefully he's got a mask on and gloves, because the last thing we need is him to come into this camp with coronavirus. So hopeful for a healthy year for him so that we can see what he can do on a full 16-game slate. What wide receiver should we pursue now? I'd have to look. I'm not even 100% sure all the names that are still available on the free agency market. I heard rumors, and it wasn't like they were trying to trade him or we were trying to trade him. I think it was just with Robbie Anderson addition, and he wasn't really in favor very much last year. And he's getting pushed down the depth chart now. People were saying we should try to trade for Curtis Samuel. I mean, I can see that if they're looking to get rid of him because he's just getting pushed down the depth chart now. I would take him. I think he could be a good fit. I think he could be like a good backup to Crowder as well. I think he can kind of work the inside or the outside. So we'll see. I think it's something where maybe we look at – I don't know if it's something that we bring in a wide receiver right now. It may be something we look to do – what was that trade we made? Let me think about it. We traded Oh, when we traded that safety, Pryor, was it Pryor? We traded Pryor to get Demario Davis back because we needed an inside linebacker and they needed a safety. I think that's something you can see maybe with one of our inside linebackers, one of our defensive linemen. I think we can trade one of these guys potentially for a wide receiver. They do that a lot towards the end because it's like, well, we're going to cut this guy and you're going to cut that guy, and they're both positions of need, so we might as well swap them right now. So I can see them potentially doing something like that. I was talking to you about, man, it's on Discord. So do I think Mims can – I would have to watch, to be honest, Dark Demonic, I would want to watch more film on him. I just watched a few highlights. Did definitely see what you were saying. A lot of it were contested catches. So that is going to be something that – yeah, it was Calvin Pryor traded for Demario Davis. So I can see something like that. But it's something that he's going to have to work on. The one thing I love, though, is I think we have excellent wide receiver coaches. I think you saw the progression that Robbie Anderson made last year with Hines Ward there, with Coach Jefferson. I always forget his first name, Sean maybe. I think those guys are very, very good wide receiver coaches. So I think if we're expecting Mims to come in this year and be like a number one wide receiver, I think that's asking too much of him. I think we need him to just be a piece that can get in there and get 600 to 800 yards his first year, maybe 5 to 7 touchdowns. I'd be very happy with that kind of production. If we think that he's going to break 1,000 yards, I think that's going to be asking too much. I'd be stoked if he can do that, but it's going to be something where he's going to have to get with those guys, and we have great guys and mentors for him for that. Cager and Mims on the outside can't teach height. Crowder and Perriman on the inside can't teach speed. Well, Perriman's tall as well, Steven. Perriman's 6'3", so he's not short either. That's Joe Douglas's type. He wants these tall, athletic wide receivers, and I don't blame him. It's a world of difference when they can go up and get it. And give Donald that target where he has that huge catch radius. What I like about Mims is he can make the contestation. Yeah, and I tell you what, Demonic, I saw on one of his highlight reels too. He was making sideline catches where he was getting both feet down, and I was watching. He has the toe tap already, so that was good to see him doing that. A lot of times you'll see some of these college guys, they make this spectacular catch on the sideline because they only have to and they only get 1 foot in. But it was great to see him kind of be able to start practicing and getting ready to get both those feet down. He also has great concentration too. So I saw a few that got bobbled and he kept his eyes on it and was able to bring it in. So I really like that. I think the drops were a little overblown because the 1 year it was not this past year, the year before, where he had half of his drops in college. He was playing with a broken hand. And then they said his drop rate was very comparable to all the top guys in the draft this year if you looked at this past season. So I'm not worried about that. I think his hands are going to be better than what people expect. Lights knows a lot about the wide receivers. I'll tell you that. He put me on to a few different guys. So he said he definitely thinks he can learn separation in the NFL, has the speed and agility to do it. Just really needs some time to learn how to use his feet properly. Yeah, and who was great at using their feet? Hines Ward. Hines Ward was cerebral when it came to route running. So I hope they become best friends, and Mims needs to stay on Hines Ward's hip and just learn from him. Speed burst. Oh, they're saying it's speed creates pressure and pressure bursts pipes. That was the saying. I think Steve, what did Joe Douglas say that, or Adam Gase said that at the combine? One of them said it at the combine. If Mims works out, this could be a sneaky good team. Imagine if Enunwa ends up giving us anything. Forget it, boys. Yeah, I mean, I was a big Enunwa fan. If he could come back, I mean, I just, for his own personal health, would really wish that he would just retire. I mean, he had not one but 2 neck injuries. So that's scary, man. The last thing you want to do is potentially see somebody get paralyzed out there on the field. I'm not wishing that on anybody, but when you keep messing around with those neck injuries, it's just scary, man. So I hope for his own safety that he just calls it quits. But if he's healthy and he's back and they keep him and he's showing something in training camp, he would be a nice compliment to these guys. He's a bigger body guy that can work the middle of the field. So it'll be interesting. Hines Ward is going to love working with Mims. Should we pursue Logan Ryan? I mean, if we have the money, I guess why not? It's just the thing is, Frank, we're trying to pursue Logan Ryan, and I appreciate you asking that because I wanted to transition to a position off wide receiver now anyway. We had went on a little bit of a run there. The thing is, we're bringing in Logan Ryan is we already have 10 bodies at corner. There's a lot of people there. So it's going to be tough. If you bring in another guy, now it's 11 people that you have at the cornerback position. It's difficult to get reps for that many people. So I don't know. He's more of a slot corner. He can play the outside, but he's better off in the slot, and we have one of the best slot corners in the league. Not saying that Logan Ryan isn't one in his own right, but I just don't think it's necessary at this point. Yeah. And the thing is, too, I think that one of these guys is going to come out of here really impressive. Like I said, if these guys are healthy, it's going to be a good competition. I even think Lamar Jackson will make the team. So it's going to be interesting. I think that Harrison, I think all those guys that played last year besides Poole, they're all in trouble. I think they're all in trouble. None of their roster spots are safe. You got Desir. Bless Austin's probably the only one that's safe. But like Harrison, Millette, all those guys are roster spots up in the air. Yeah. No, I agree, Dr. Monk, but is Logan Ryan that number one corner that can take on a number one wide receiver? I don't think so. So it's just tough. I don't know where that answer would come from. I think we just have a plethora of wide receiver, cornerback number 2s and 3s. And that's not necessarily a terrible thing. The thing is, we got good safeties too. And now that we have a third safety, they can play 3 safety sets. We were a top 10 defense with worse corners last year. We have better corners this year. So while they're not where they need to be, they should be good enough to get the job done for this year. But that's definitely going to be a position of need next year for this team because we got to get – it's just crazy because we were so blessed with – think about it now. If we could have had Cromartie and Revis with the rest of this defense, that would have been unbelievable. Because back then we had decent safeties, but they weren't great, right? I think it was, Eric Smith, and I can't even remember who the other safety was. But now it's like now we got the excellent safeties and the corners are decent. So, I mean, that's the way it works. It's hard to get everybody all in one spot. But heard rumor about Jets getting Ngakoue for 2021 second and third round. Any truth to that? I did not hear that, and I would not want that. I'm not as high on Yannick as most other people, but that would be second and third is a little much for the amount of money that Yannick wants as well. I would pass. I would pass on that. I don't want that. Last rumor I heard about him was from the Raiders, but it seemed that fell apart. Maybe again, Green inside or not sure. Don't need great corners with our attacking defense. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like with our attacking defense, Ashton Davis is going to help that defense become more attacking because there's going to be a lot of times where all 3 of those safeties are on the field at the same time. Ashton Davis, Marcus May, and Jamal Adams. And that's going to free Adams up to be all over the place, wreaking havoc. Whether that be blitzing off the side, picking up a tight end, covering a running back. He's going to be all over the place. Clowney on a 1-year deal, I'll take. Yeah, 1 year like $10 million, like somebody just mentioned. Sure, why not? I mean, but I'm not giving. I guess I'd draw the line about $14 million or so. Anything above that, probably don't want him. The interesting thing will be if we can trade Henry Anderson and free up that money. So, Dr. Monica, it does to an extent, though, because there's a certain amount of money that you can roll over into next year. So, but we are projected to have quite a bit of money next year. So maybe we don't need the extra money to be rolled over. But if he's not really going to be somebody that's going to be that elite edge rusher that's going to really make that world of difference, we might be better off just saving that money and rolling it over into next year. I don't think we're a Super Bowl contender this year. I don't think any of us would say that. Could we compete for the playoffs? Sure. And I think that we absolutely should. But I just don't know, man. I don't know if I want to bring him in too, because the way we're building this locker room, I don't know if I want somebody that is notoriously known for not really working very hard. So I don't know how that's going to jive with everybody else. Bryce Huff is going to make the team. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he's a talented player. He just didn't have the measurables, which made him go undrafted. And he's at a position that is very thin. So that is one position on our team that is still very, very thin. So I think Bryce Huff has a very good chance. He probably has the best chance of any undrafted guy to make the team, just solely based on the position he plays. So like I said, my top 3 undrafted guys that could potentially make it is Huff, Lamar Jackson, and Cager. But I think Huff has the clearest path. So I want to see what you guys think here too. Rumors are that Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to be re-upping with the Steelers potentially. He may be available after this upcoming season. And I think that this is extremely interesting because we're going to have money. Perriman's on a 1-year deal, so he could be out the door. Hopefully Mims is showing some great signs to developing towards a wide receiver number 1. I think we would still have Crowder left on a 1 more year. I think Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, he's got the chemistry with Donald. Donald was his quarterback his last year before he got drafted, which really helped boost his stock. They had great chemistry there. I would love to bring him in if that's an option potentially next year. So that could be a way for us to really solidify this wide receiver core for the long haul. If we could get Juju with Mims and Crowder, I mean, with Sam Darnold and the way he's going to develop, I think that that's a really, really good wide receiver core there. 7 playoff spots we're getting in. Yeah, they added that extra playoff spot this year. So I can definitely see us getting in. Like I said, I'm going to go through and give my predictions on win-loss predictions, once the schedule comes out. So I know the opponents are out, and we can kind of do it through the opponents, who I think we match up well with, who I think we can beat. But it's all very dependent on how those games are laid out. Do we have a long West Coast road trip? Do we have a short week playing one of these tougher teams, and is it on a road maybe on a short week? So a lot of that stuff is going to factor into like some of these closer games, which way I think they're going to go. So that's why I kind of wait for the schedule to come out to do anything like that. Jets can get in this year, but my number one concern is not the roster themselves. It's Adam Gase. It's a major legit concern because he sucks. So fair enough, Demonic. I know a lot of you're not the only one. You're not in the minority. You're probably in the majority of people who don't like Gase, who don't think he's very good. And I'm not saying that I think he is good. I'm not a Gase supporter. I am just willing to give him this year. That's where my stance is with him, because I don't care who our coach was last year. They wouldn't have done much better than Gase did. My thinking here is, and what I hope, what my hope is that Gase was holding things back last year. So if you look at the way the year started, I think we had Sam go out with mono, and you could easily tell that he was not running the playbook with Fails or whoever we had out there. So he was definitely not running his playbook then, because then you look at the Dallas game, it was a completely different playbook than the previous 3 games when we had our backups in. And then I think towards the end of the year, he was starting to open it back up again. I think they may run a little more RPOs this year. I think Gase was trying to protect him. And also, it's very hard to do different things when the offensive line is that bad. So I'm hoping hoping that Gase was holding some stuff back because he just didn't have the talent around Sam to do anything last year. So we'll see what happens, but I'm willing to see him out this year. But if the team stays healthy or relatively healthy, right, nobody's going to be 100% healthy, and they're not performing the way I want, then, yeah, it's going to be a hard look at getting rid of them. My thing is, and I take a very hard stance in this, is I don't want him fired during the season because I don't trust his little sidekick that's not even an offensive coordinator. He just holds Gase's clipboard. And I don't want Jim Bob Cooter to be the offensive coordinator either. So I think for Sam Darnold and for the development of the young guys on this offense, Gase is going to be the best option that we currently have. We don't have a very good offensive coordinator that I trust to take over play calling duties. So I think Gase is going to stay for at least a whole year. Let's just go in open-minded and give him a chance, see what he does. Because like I said, that team was devastated last year. I just try to think of it from my perspective. Like, what if I was the head coach there? Like, how was I supposed to do anything with that? So that's where I'm at with it. But his QB sucked in Miami. They were very hurt in Miami too. I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but he was devastated with injuries in Miami as well. So, it was tough. They started out pretty hot a few years in Miami, and then what did they have? Three linemen got hurt in 1 year, and Tannehill went down too. So Gase has been hit with a lot of bad luck too. And like I said, I'm not trying to be a supporter or a defender of Gase. I just try to be realistic. I try to look at it from the outside perspective. So let's see what happens there. Titans had a hard-nosed running back and good defense this past season. Yeah, hold on 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. Hold on. Sorry, guys. My son, he's still up. He should have been sleeping already. He wanted to give me a hug and kiss goodnight. He kept knocking on the door. But let's see what we got in the chat here. He lost to every winless team. Yeah, Deshaun, I was talking about that a little bit before. If you watch that Bengals game, the Dolphins, that wasn't as bad. The Bengals game, every time we tried to build momentum, every time we had a big run or a big pass, it got called back for something, man. And that's what, if you look at what Joe Douglas did this offseason, I mentioned this earlier, he brought in guys that don't get penalized. He brought in guys that play with good technique and don't have to hold on to people. So that really killed us. Between the holding penalties on offense, holding penalties on defense, we really just got destroyed that game. Greg Williams had the locker room together in my mind. You saw the end of the Dallas game. They were all together. Yeah. All true. Johnson's family never fired a coach through the season. They wait till the end of the season. Yeah. I think that's the right way to do it, though, especially when if you don't have like somebody that you potentially – I think the only time you really want to do that is fire a coach in the middle of the season is if you have somebody that you think has the potential to be the head coach long term, and maybe you want to give him a little trial run as the interim coach. But we don't have anybody like that. You look at it, and I mean, Greg Williams is not he can't be a head coach long term in this league. He needs to just worry about his defense. And I think that was the same thing with Rex. Rex needed to just stay a defensive coordinator. There's certain people that are just really good at what they do, and that's all they need to do. They don't need to advance any further than that. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, I don't think he gets fired in the middle of the season. Season of things. Yeah. So also, like I said, with this chat, I was going to take what we got in the chat here. Not much going on in the chat right now, so I kind of want to just bring up another thing here. The defensive front seven is an area where it's going to be interesting to see who starts and who even makes the team at a lot of these positions. So I kind of wanted to go through my thoughts on some of this, see what you guys think too. So if we start with the defensive line, I mean, you got Anderson, McClendon, Quinnen Williams, Fatukasi, Phillips. There's a lot of bodies that are going to be rotated through here. I know I'm missing at least one or two other people right now, but it's going to be interesting to see who makes his team, who doesn't. I think so. If you guys heard, there was rumors around the draft that we were potentially looking at trading Henry Anderson and I think Winters maybe. Obviously, we didn't trade either of them. But Henry Anderson, I think at the very least, Shepard, yes, I knew I was forgetting somebody. I think at the very least, this is Anderson's last year. If we don't trade him, we're not going to release him because it's going to cost us more money to release him than it is to keep him. So we're not releasing him. But after this year, it costs us like $1 million to get rid of him. I don't see him staying past this year. He was a disappointment last year. He's probably one of my top disappointments from a year ago. As I thought he played really well his first year with us. We got him for a 7th or 6th round pick and looked like a steal because the Colts had changed from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and he had put on a bunch of weight to try to fit the 4-3 scheme, and then they just traded him away to us, and he dropped the weight back off again and played well. But last year he just was getting outplayed by these other guys, didn't really show up, make any highlight plays or anything like that. So I think Nathan Shepard could easily take his spot. There's a few people. It'll be interesting to see McClendon. So McClendon is, as you guys probably have seen, he's one of the hype guys. He really gets the team going. He is the leader on that front seven. I just don't know how much he plays. He's still a very good run defender, but with the emergence of Fatukasi last year, I could see him kind of taking a back seat now. Maybe just being a rotational guy that comes in and spells him. But he's that emotional leader that will be good for this team still. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that pans out with the whole defensive line and who even starts. Quinn Williams is definitely going to be a starter on this defense, and I think he makes one of the biggest leaps on this team this year. I'm really shopping for guys this free agency, though. Yeah, that's exactly what it was, Demonic. They were just looking to get some bodies in here. He wants to build through the draft, so these like placeholder guys, where he has the option to keep them for multiple years, or he can get out of them very quickly. So these are just stopgap guys because he can't fill every hole in one offseason. Well, not through the draft, right? So he's got to bring in some of these other guys to just help out for right now, and that's what a lot of them are. Van Roten probably won't be around very long. So I think McGovern is, out of all the people he brought in this year, McGovern's the one that will stay the longest, easily. I think McGovern could be our center of the future because he's only 27, I think, 26, something around there. So McGovern will stay, but I can see Van Roten playing this year and then Clark potentially taking a guard spot, and we kind of let him go. So he got a lot of position flexibility. He got a lot of roster flexibility, which is huge, to where he can do a lot of different things moving forward. Some players know the season is over and can't make the playoffs, so they quit a little. Yeah, but we don't want those types of people, Steve. JD's building the pipeline. Becton talked about that he's wanted to play tight end in some sets normally. I'll laugh. Yeah, that was in his high school. I was just reading that, Demonic, a few hours ago. He went to his high school coach and said he wanted to play tight end and wide receiver. And his coach said, son, you're an offensive lineman. And then, I've been reading some interesting stories about Becton. He also, in one of his high school games, he went up to his coach and said, hey, coach, do you want to win this game? The coach said, yeah, of course I want to win this game. He said, run the ball behind me. And the rest of the game, that was at halftime of the game. The rest of the game, they ran the ball 90% of the time behind him, and they came back and won the game. So I think Bella is going to love having Becton over there as a fullback. Yeah, imagine that. The fridge 2.0. Was about to ask about Q Williams. He was used as a rotational guy last year and was pretty disappointing for a third pick. You think he'll really make that jump in year two? Yeah, Light. So you got to think about it, right? Yes, he was very disappointing. His stats didn't do much. He didn't flash very much. But he missed – so the leap, even though he went to Alabama, the biggest program in college football, right, and played in high-stakes games, the leap from college to the NFL is a big leap no matter what program you come from. And he missed a lot of training camp. He also had lower leg injuries. So he's built on explosion. He's one of the quicker, more explosive defensive linemen, right? He's not Chris Jenkins. He's not Will Fork, right? He's not these huge mammoths in the middle. He's a quick, agile guy, right? That's why people were comparing him to Donald, because he has that get-off. He has that quick twitch. So when you have those lower leg injuries, that's going to hamper you. And those are not something that go away through the season. That's something that he's played through. It got to the point where he healed up enough so that he could play through it. So while he came back, he was playing hurt. So this whole offseason, get him healthy, get him right. I think you see him make that leap now. So that's why I'm higher on Quinnen Williams making that leap back this year, because of what he went through last year and knowing how that could affect him. That would be nuts if he can run basic routes at tight end. Yeah, but then if he goes to tight end, who's going to play left tackle? But you could say, hey, maybe down on the goal line they'll make him an eligible tackle and he'll go out and catch a pass. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Quinnen Williams makes a huge stride. Yeah. So Steven, I saw him pushing the truck, the white Jeep or whatever it was. But somebody told me that there was a picture of him, like, I don't know if he was flexing or whatnot. They said he looked all ripped and buffed. I didn't see that. I just saw him pushing a truck. So if there is like pictures of him all jacked up now, I just don't know where they are because I haven't seen him yet. And then the inside linebacker position. So we touched on this briefly, but we brought back Hewitt. We brought back Burgess, all 1 year low cost deals. They both might have been brought back and might not even make the team. That's going to be interesting to see if Joe Douglas would literally sign somebody and cut them before they play a game that year. Because there's too many bodies in there in the inside linebacker position. C.J. Mosley, Williamson, Hewitt, Burgess, Cashman, Peanut. There's a lot of names in that inside linebacker spot. It's probably the deepest position we have. I want Cameron Clark to be the left guard, Braden. I want him to be the left guard. Let him and Becton forget about it. They'll be mauling people over there. You see Cameron Clark, him and Becton next to each other, and apparently they've already became friends through this whole process. They met, I think it was at the Combine, and then they kind of kept in touch, and I don't know if they were working out in the same circles, but they became good friends. So if they're already building that rapport, I would make them roommates. I would pair them up at training camp and just have him over there. I let him compete for that left guard spot this year. He put on great film against Clemson. Clemson's a top program. Why not? Where does that leave Alex Lewis? Hopefully on the bench. I think Alex Lewis played well last year. He helped. He was better than most people at the guard position, but he commits too many penalties. He is good. He's not good enough, right? He's a backup. That's what he is. He's a good backup. If you have him out there too long, he's going to get exposed. And that's what happened. He commits too many penalties. He's a nice guy. Like I said, he brings that nastiness a little bit too. So he's a good guy to have come off the bench if he has to play a series or two, a game or two, hopefully. But Alex Lewis needs to be a backup. If we want to be a playoff contender, a AFC East champ contenders, he needs to be a backup. He's not a starter on good teams. That's just what he is. So, and also, I think that not only do the Jets like him better, I think he's a better player. I think Winters, now hear me out here before you guys are crazy about Winters. I think Winters is better player than Lewis. I'd rather keep Winters, get rid of Lewis, if anything, and start Van Roten at left guard, start Winters at right guard. I think that's a better lineup than having Lewis at left guard and Van Roten at right guard. Because Winters, the biggest problem with Winters is that he gets hurt and he plays hurt. It's like he'll start the year and he looks good the first game or two. And then all of a sudden it's like, what happened? He became a turnstile. And for like 3 games, we'll be like, Winters sucks, get him out of there. And then we find out he's got a torn pec. And he's been playing with it since week 1. So it's like that's been the biggest thing with Winters. If Clark gets Winters cut, he was to pick alone. I'll never forgive him for yelling at Sam Darnold for the fumble in the end zone against Miami. Yeah. So I was just talking about Winters, about his ability compared to Lewis on that one. I think he's just who would you want to play right tackle. I think that's our weak spot on the line. Yeah, I think right tackle is going to be fat. Steven, that's the lineup I want. From left to right, I've said it since after the draft. That's the starting five I want. Becton, Clark, McGovern, Van Roten, Fant. I think Fant is more athletic than Udoka. I didn't like a lot that I saw from Udoka last year. He was been why can't I think of his name? The other guy we had playing right tackle. It'll come to me. The guy, his uncle was in the NFL. But, he was better than him, but that doesn't make him any good. That's not saying a lot. Shell. There you go. Shell. Brendan Shell. He was definitely better than Shell, but Udoka is no good, man. I want Fant there. From what I've heard, he did a very good job playing that tight end spot. They just brought – it's not really a tight spot. It was a sixth offensive lineman. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit too since we were mentioning the right tackle. So I on Bleacher Report, and some of the articles are good, some are horrendous. But they had one about the 9, right? The 10. The 9 worst moves in the offseason. I guess they couldn't find a 10th one. It was only 9 bad moves offseason. And like number 5 so was that signing because they said 3-year, $30 million deal. But it's like, okay, are you just looking at the numbers? Essentially a 1-year deal. No, almost no guarantee money first year. So how is that really that bad of a sign? And they keep him. Like I love those deals he's creating because it says my connection is unstable. You guys see me there? All right, I think it's back up. I don't know. It said my connection was unstable. But that's what the deals Douglas made is they got outs. So you have the option to keep them if they play well, the option to cut it if either they don't play well or left in the mid-round if they continue to progress and can then be ready to take over. But one of the best – oh, I have that, man. That means a lot. That's man. And I don't know if any of you guys have created a channel where you actually talk before. In the beginning, it's very – not a lot of people view your videos. Not a lot of people comment. And I don't know why my connection keeps going unstable here. But it's just tough, man. You felt stopping because you're like, are many people even watching or listening? And then you get comments like Jose's right there, and you get some comments in your videos, people saying that they really love what you're doing, keep up the great work. And then it's like that keeps me going because like you guys want to hear what I got to say, so I'm going to keep it up. I don't care if I don't have that many subscribers. I don't care if people don't want to bring me in for joint work or anything like that. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just a fan too, man. I just feel like so many times I hear the reason I created this is so many times I hear people just reiterate the same stuff that everybody's saying. And I wanted to and that's why if you watch like my first video when I was just welcoming everybody to the channel saying what to expect here, I said to you guys, I said, look, I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion. It may not always be what the media is saying, what everybody else is saying, but I'm going to give you my honest feedback on it. And that's why I came out with that rant video because I was getting so sick and tired of everybody just saying, well, we had an easy schedule, now we have a hard schedule. It's like that's not the end all be all. Like there was a lot of other factors in there that need to be accounted for. And it was just lazy of these people to just use as an excuse or as a rationale for why we're going to be 6-10. It's not, man. So it's just great. Was Udoka bad because he was next to Winters and therefore will be better beside Van Roten? I think whenever you're next to a better caliber guy, it's definitely going to help you. He could be, but I still seen him getting beat on his outside. And that doesn't matter who your guard is. If you're getting beat on the outside, that's you. You're on the island. You're a tackle. That's what you got to do, be on that island. So it doesn't matter who. If you could have a Hall of Fame guard next to you. If you're getting beat on the outside, you're getting beat on the outside. He can't help you. But I think everybody on the offensive line will be better with McGovern in there at center because he's going to be able to take command of this offensive line and make calls. So the ghost games, right? Seeing ghost game. That was a shit show. Excuse my language, right? But we had no idea. There was nobody taking leadership on the offensive line. We had no idea where these blitzes were coming from. They had no idea who was coming, who wasn't going. And it's just you need somebody to take care of that line, make the right calls, and get the people in the right positions. So Sam Darnold needs to take more accountability on that this year and have him govern. I mean, he's a veteran, but he's not a veteran, as he's only been in the league, a few years. But he's got experience, so he can make these line calls and get these guys in the right position. So I think that alone could make everybody a bit better, having just that chemistry. So that's going to be the thing we got to watch in the beginning of the year. So our offensive line is greatly improved from last year, but we may not see the impacts of that right away, especially with everything going on with the coronavirus. If they can't get in here for some of these mini camps and they have to go straight to training camp or potentially have a reduced training camp, we don't know what's going to happen yet. It's going to hurt because they're all new. None of these guys have played next to each other before. So if we go with the starting five that I like, Becton, Clark, McGovern, Van Roten, and Fant, none of those players have ever played with each other before. It's going to take time for them to build chemistry, even if Clark's not in there, right? That's kind of a long haul. But even if you put Lewis in there, Lewis hasn't played with none of those guys either. Like, these are all new guys. It's going to take some time to build chemistry. Becton is going to be a little bit of work in progress in pass sets because he's got to get a little bit better there too. So it's going to be a work in progress. The line is not going to be solidified overnight. They will build up and hopefully continue to improve throughout the year. Adobe got beat one-on-one outside. Yeah, Lights, that's exactly what I was just saying. Bro, you are in my top 3 that I listen to. Keep it up, mate. Oh, I appreciate that, Brandon. Adobe can be a backup or fill-in roster guy, but as a starter, not right now. Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's where he's got to be. Who knows? Like, I'm not saying that he can never develop into something. He potentially can, but yeah, I would much rather have him sit behind Fant and let him watch for this year, and just build up. I think he'd be a very good backup tackle. I would never want him at left tackle again. He did atrocious there. He played well at right tackle. So I would like to have him as the backup tackle for sure. I turned the game off quicker than the butt fumble game. I'm not sure which game that was. Maybe it was something I was saying. This is a big year for Sam, who is in his 3rd season. Yeah, it definitely is. Every year is big for a quarterback, especially a young quarterback. I mean, they got to continue to improve. They got to continue to get better. And Sam Darnold has to play 16 games. That's the biggest thing. He has to play 16 games this year. First year, he had the foot ankle injury. Last year, he's kissing the wrong woman and that whole fiasco. But he's got to play 16. He's got to continue to improve. And I just hope for him, what I saw from him last year is he was trying to do way too much. But, I mean, how do you really blame him? The kid was 22 years old. He was out for 3 games, and they couldn't even get a first down without him. And he's like, look at these guys. The offensive line is horrendous. Whether he wants to admit it or not, he knew it deep down. And he was trying to improvise. He was trying to create. And I think there was a lot of times where he was forcing passes because he said, if I take this sack, we have no chance. So he just said, I'd rather give my guy a chance to make a play. And he's got ultimate confidence in his own ability too, which is something you love to see. So it's going to be interesting. I think he does make a big step this year, though, Holly. Coming into 2020 with the position spots on all 3 sides of the ball. Yeah, they definitely have to show improvement, and they will. I mean, I don't know how the offensive line or the offense in general can be any worse than last year. That was pretty pathetic. For me, it's quarterback, running back, punter. Watch him shank his first punt. Hey, he could get a little, butterflies in his gut. Who knows? But that guy is a beast, man. And like I said, he's going to help this team a lot more. I know people wanted – there was different players that people wanted. But in the 6th round, those are all – even like Welekas, I think, was still on the board of people. I know people wanted him for the edge. There's no saying that guy will ever be anything good. Man is going to come in right away and be a big factor on this team. He's really good at directional punts. He's really good at flipping the field. And that's going to be huge. It changes the momentum of games. So if you have a punter that's shanking punts or not punting the ball very far, netting 35, 40 yards, a punt, it's gonna keep that defense backed up and keep them working hard to try to get the other team 3 and out because they can't do anything, right? And also from the offensive standpoint, if you're stalling and then your punter's not flipping the field, even if your defense gets a quick stop, they're going to punt and they're going to pin you deep. And now your offense that's struggling can't get out of its own end zone. And when you're backed up like that, your playbook shrinks because you got to watch you're right there by the end zone. And it's, it changes the momentum of the game. If you can't get out of that spot, it's horrible. So I was watching a video of him punting out of his own end zone. I think the ball was on the 2-yard line, and he was punting, and he punted like 70 yards, and just completely flipped it. And you could just see the guys. So I was a kicker, and when I was in high school, I punted a little bit for a few years. So when I was punting, or even when I was kicking like kickoffs, right? If you can get a kickoff or a punt, and you can pin them deep somehow, more on a punt than a kickoff, right? The defense comes onto the field fired up. They're ready to go, right? So it helps to motivate them and get them fired up. So while people think that special teams is not that important, it is extremely important, man. So I think that was a huge add. So apparently our special teams coordinator and Greg Williams were both like shouting, standing on a table like, we want this guy. So it's good to see that because Greg Williams does understand the importance of that. And, I mean, I tell you what, we all know Greg Williams and how much he likes to dial up exotic blitzes. Imagine if man pins a few of these inside the 5. He's going to be pinning those ears back, and he's going to be sending everybody. So he's going to love it. But, yeah, the punter should help, especially with how good our defense should be. Could win a couple of games that way. Man has great mechanics, and he's a power kicker. I think he will be a Pro Bowler in the future. Yeah, he could definitely be a Pro Bowler in the future. And the thing is, too, like sometimes like one of the negatives they said was he can potentially outkick his coverage. That's just all him knowing, and we have a good special teams coordinator. So there's times where you have to just get that hang time. There's times where you have to boom it deep. So if you're trying to flip the field and you're booming it, like you're going to outkick your coverage. If you hit it 70 yards, 65 yards, you're outkicking your coverage. I don't care how much hang time you got. You can't have that much hang time for them to run that far down the field. But you have to take that chance that you're backing the returner up now, right? So while you're outkicking the coverage, the return man is backing up and running backwards, so his momentum's all gone. So it's going to take him a second to gather and get moving forward again. But you have to take those big boomers to try to flip the field and hope that when your gunners make a play. So I'm excited about him. The kicker, that spot leaves a lot to be desired. We have 2 guys going into camp. I think they'll both be the guys into camp. I think as they show their true colors and they are not performing well, I can see one of them get let go very early on in training camp and bring another body in is what I'm really hoping for. Because I don't really feel comfortable with either one of them going into the year. I mean, Ficken had his moments, but he's just not reliable. Sam Darnold needs to have more the type of performance like he had against Green Bay and Dallas, where you see him playing decisively, leading the offense and getting into rhythm. Yeah, and I think, Holly, with the offensive line and the improved play around him, will allow him to get kind of in the flow and in the rhythm more. Because the thing is, it's tough when you're running for your life on every play. So, and your running back can't get any yards because he's getting hit in the backfield. So very difficult to get in the rhythm when the team was as bad as it was and as devastated as it was last year. I think the punter was one of the biggest reasons the Titans beat the pass in the playoffs. A punter, like I said, yeah, punters can have huge impact on the game. Hopefully, we don't use the punter very much. Hopefully, the offense is much improved to where we're not the team that leads the league in punts this year, right? Hopefully, we're scoring touchdowns and kicking field goals and not punting the ball as much. Sam had a lot of help put around him this offseason. I'm expecting a big year from him. If he doesn't deliver, I don't know how I'll feel about him in the long term. So, Lights, it is definitely a big year for him. I am a big Darnold supporter. I think that he is the answer for the future. It's just crazy to think like he's younger than Burrow, and the reason I bring that up again, I know people have said that before, is like, well, if Burrow doesn't play well in his first year, and people can be like, well. So what I'm saying is he's still young enough to where even though he's in his third year, he's still developing and he's still improving. If everybody's healthy on that offense and he just doesn't look good, yeah, it's gonna be bad, right? But I don't see that happening. Like, from what I've seen from Sam so far, I don't see it coming to the point where it's like, man, he's just playing really bad. But you never know. You never know what can happen. I'm hoping that this is a big year for him. I thought Sam was going to have a breakout year last year. I think the mono really set him back. But he showed signs. I mean, he finished strong both years. So if he could just get that momentum going from the beginning and keep it throughout the year, I think he could have a very solid year. Is this a make or break year for Adam Gase? Will he be given 2021 as an option? I don't think it's make or break in the sense of playoff or bust. So I know Manish Mehta, who has a vendetta against Gase now, that whole burner account, but he said playoff or bust for Gase because of the talent that was brought in. I don't think it's make or break. Like, what if we finish 9-7 and don't make the playoffs? Like, that could happen. That's a good year. So, or what happens if we get devastated by injuries again? Hopefully it doesn't. But I don't think this is a make or break year for Gase. I think the way that he could still get fired after this year for sure, if we just fall flat on our face, or if it looks like this team's regressing, or if it looks like he loses the locker room, I think that could get him out of here. But if they're playing well and they're competing and they're in contention for playoffs late, I don't think he gets let go. The most important thing is going to be Donald. So it's going to go back to the question, the comment that Lights just made about, if Darnold doesn't do well this year, he's going to have concerns about his long-term future. But if Darnold does well, they're going to be like, look, he's getting our franchise quarterback to where he needs to be, and that's all they're going to care about. They're going to care about the progression of this offense and the progression of Sam Darnold. 2 more years, depending if they just win. Manish Wyatt is a hack. Yeah, I don't like Manish really at all. I do tell you what, though, he does break some news. He's got some connections in there somehow. I'm about to get off here, too. I see some people getting off. Steven, I appreciate you coming in. Dark, Monica, as always, appreciate it. But I'll just finish up with that. And Manish, like I said, he's just a hack. I can't stand a lot of the stuff that he says. But like I said, he does have some connections in there. So I will go to his Twitter from time to time to see, like during free agency and during the draft, like when I saw we traded, I kind of would go onto his to see what the trade was, because he kind of gets those out pretty quickly. But hey, guys, I really appreciate you guys all coming to hang out. I'm going to try to do this, like I said, every Sunday. We'll see. With training camps being virtual now, and not training camps, the mini camps being virtual now, I don't know how much news is really going to be to come out of this, but if you guys want me to keep doing it, I'll keep doing it. Well, as long as people keep showing up, we'll keep doing it, man. But I appreciate you guys all coming out and showing support, man. Like I said, it means a lot to me to hear you guys say how much you enjoy listening to my content. I'm going to keep just giving you guys my honest feedback, man. So see if I'll put out a few videos this week. I'm not sure what we really should put out on yet, but we will be back next Sunday as well, same time. So until then, jet up.